I need to say this first. Not every resort changes you, but this one did in ways I still can't fully explain. If you ever get the same invitation, you'll understand why no one can really resist it. Aurelia Vista Resort is not just a hotel, it's an initiation, an awakening of something inside you that you might not even know was sleeping. And once you enter, you leave part of yourself behind forever. Everything you're about to hear happened during my 3-day stay at the Aurelia Vista Resort, an adults-only hotel tucked away in a remote tropical cove. Because of the resort's strict privacy rules, I can't show you the original footage. But the story alone will tell you more than a camera ever could. This is a mysterious resort story, one that will make you rethink what luxury really means. By the end, you'll realize this place doesn't sell comfort, it sells surrender. From the moment I stepped off that private shuttle, the air itself felt curated. Citrus mixed with ocean mist, as if the atmosphere had been designed in a laboratory. Beneath it lingered a faint trace of something like clove, warm and almost medicinal. It was the kind of scent you don't notice at first, but it creeps into your memory and refuses to leave. Even now, I can still smell it when I close my eyes. A woman in a linen dress greeted me by name. I didn't give it, and she didn't ask. She pressed 2 fingers to my wrist as if taking a pulse, then whispered, "Welcome to your secret self." Her breath was warm against my skin, and for a second I felt like my body wasn't entirely my own. That's what they call it at Aurelia Vista, your secret self. The check-in didn't involve ID, credit cards, or even a signature. Just a single touch on a glass surface and a room number, 43. No record, no receipt, no paper trail of who I was before. It was as if they erased my identity the moment I arrived. The feeling was both terrifying and strangely freeing. By the entrance, I saw a man being blindfolded by 2 women in silk robes. One kissed his temple slowly, almost reverently. The other whispered something directly into his mouth, as if feeding him a secret. His knees buckled as they led him past me through carved wooden doors. His trembling legs told me he wasn't resisting. Let me stop here quickly. If you're wondering what kind of place this is, yes, you're right, but also not quite. It's not a sex club, not a cult, and not illegal, but it thrives in that dangerous tension between desire and control. Every rule exists to make you question whether you're following them, or if something deeper is guiding you. That uncertainty is the true currency of Aurelia Vista. My room looked like it had been designed by someone intent on erasing the outside world. There were no clocks, no windows, no phone signal. Just dim violet lighting and the softest velvet I've ever felt under my fingertips. On the bed lay a handwritten note in gold ink. "You deserve to be seen." The words felt like both comfort and command. A soft jazz track played in the background, slow saxophone and steady drums. Beneath it was something else, something almost human, like breathing in rhythm with the music. The sound seemed to vibrate in my chest, sensing with my own pulse. It wasn't just background music, it was a presence. The room itself felt alive. Let me pause for a second. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and on what device. We love seeing how many places these stories reach. It makes this community feel connected across the world. Sometimes I imagine the resort watching along with us, listening to every reply. Maybe that's the real secret of Aurelia Vista. Okay, back to day 1. Dinner was held at a place they called the Temple. Shoes were not allowed and no chairs were offered, only cushions spread across the floor. Dozens of long candles flickered from every corner, their flames bending with the heavy scent of cardamom and vanilla that floated like an invisible veil. It felt more like a sacred ritual than a meal. Guests lounged in loose robes, some fully open, some tightly closed. No one spoke, but the silence carried weight, as though every unspoken thought was amplified. I was paired with a man named Edo, his tan skin marked by a faint scar above his lip. He moved with deliberate slowness, as if every gesture was rehearsed for maximum effect. When he fed me grapes with 2 fingers, his touch lingered against my bottom lip like he was memorizing me by texture. His eyes held mine without blinking. The intimacy was sharper than any words could be. He never asked my name, and I never asked for his. In Aurelia Vista, names had no meaning, only roles. And in that moment, my role was to surrender to his control. Later that night, back in my room, a silver tray waited by the door. On it was a single slice of pineapple and a glass of something green, fizzy, and herbal. The taste was sharp, floral, and strangely intoxicating. Next to the glass lay a sealed envelope, wax stamped with the symbol of an eye. Inside, it read, "Everyone is watching. Especially tonight." It didn't feel like a threat, it felt like permission. I lay in bed with the jazz still playing, mingling with faint moans that seeped through the walls. At some point, I couldn't tell whether I was alone or if someone was silently breathing beside me. Sleep never really came, only fragments of desire and confusion. Day 2 began with a knock, 3 soft taps at precisely 6:02 a.m. I opened the door still in my robe, to find a barefoot woman balancing a tray of coffee on her head. Her eyes remained closed, her voice a whisper. Follow the silence. I obeyed, my heart beat louder than her words. In Aurelia Vista, disobedience never even occurred to me. She led me down a hallway lined with tinted foggy mirrors. As I walked, faint reflections rippled across the glass. Some showed figures undressing, others locked in embraces, and some were only shadows moving in time with mine. I couldn't tell whether they were visions of the past, live images of other guests, or something imagined. Each step felt like walking deeper into someone else's secret. At the end of the hall, a mist-covered garden opened before me. Dozens of guests sat in a circle on the grass, eyes closed, bodies swaying together as one. Their breathing rose and fell in perfect sync, torsos lifting and collapsing like a single organism. They called it breath choreography, but no one explained the meaning. And yet, I felt like I already knew. I stayed at the edge, unwilling to break the rhythm. Watching them was like intruding on something sacred, something both intimate and forbidden. Their bodies moved with an erotic pulse, subtle yet undeniable, like a dance without music. I could feel the heat of their breath even from where I sat. For a moment, I wanted to join, but my fear of losing control held me back. When I returned to my room, everything had changed. The violet lighting was gone, replaced by a deep red glow that bled across the walls. Wine-colored velvet draped every surface, and rose petals covered the floor. My robe had vanished, replaced with a sheer slip of fabric, barely enough to cover me. On the mirror, written in red lipstick, were the words, "Are you ready?" I wasn't, but I didn't leave. The air was thick, humid, and carried the scent of cinnamon and sweat. Every breath felt heavier, as if the room itself was seducing me. My pulse quickened, but I couldn't decide if it was fear or desire that anchored me there. That night, I wandered the halls alone. I skipped dinner, skipped the temple. I needed answers more than ritual. On the second floor, supposedly restricted, I found a stairwell without signs. Only the scent of wet stone guiding me downward. The walls were colder here, echoing with distant whispers. My bare feet pressed against cool marble steps. I entered a long room lined with mannequins, each dressed in guest robes. Every mannequin wore a name tag. Some bore names I had seen on envelopes left for others: Edo, Carla, Yasmin. Names I thought were illusions, invented identities. Now they hung on lifeless figures as though the guests had been replaced. I heard footsteps approaching, echoing against the stone. My chest tightened as I hurried back to my room, every shadow behind me stretching too long. When I arrived, a black box sat neatly on my bed. Inside were wireless earbuds and a folded note. The words were simple: "Put them in." I obeyed. The moment they connected, I heard my own voice whispering, "You're almost there." My throat closed because I never remembered recording that. A soft tone followed, then silence. And then, like a switch, sleep swallowed me whole. Day 3 was not like the others. My room was bare, stripped of velvet and petals, everything reduced to stark white walls. The bed was the only object, and on it lay a thick stack of papers. The top page carried bold black letters, "You've been accepted." Beneath it was a 10-page document titled "The Guest Contract." The words etched themselves into me: loyalty, discretion, obedience, pleasure. Each page detailed rules that demanded not just compliance but devotion. It read less like a contract and more like vows. The further I scanned, the more I felt my heartbeat sync with the rhythm of the text. By the last page, my hand trembled above the pen. I didn't sign. Instead, I packed my things with frantic precision. The silence outside my door was suffocating, heavier than any sound I'd heard before. When I left the room, no one tried to stop me. At checkout, the concierge's eyes caught mine, and she simply said, "We'll see you again when you're ready." The shuttle ride back was silent. Other passengers sat stiff and expressionless, their hands folded neatly in their laps. Their eyes stared straight ahead, unblinking, as if their bodies remained in the ritual even as we departed. The ocean breeze through the window should have been refreshing, but instead it carried a trace of clove that made my stomach twist. Freedom didn't feel like escape. 2 weeks later, a white envelope arrived at my home. No return address, only thick cardstock inside. The message was a single sentence. You were always meant to return. My fingers shook as I held it. That night, I burned it in the sink, but even as the flames consumed it, I swear I could hear faint music playing from nowhere. Since then, I've been dreaming of velvet walls. Of jazz tangled with soft moans, of shadows pressing close, of whispers too low to understand. My body remembers touches I never received, lips that never kissed, voices that never said my name. Desire lingers in me like a phantom limb. And every night, I wonder if the resort is still watching. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because if you ever get an invitation to Aurelia Vista, you won't be able to resist. The line between choice and command will blur until you can't tell the difference. And when you return, because you will, I want to know who you became. All of you.